I will also be looking down to make sure I share. So it's just part of the whole new world of this Zoom.
Yeah.
You have to do one before the other. And okay, so we are officially live. Hey,
Yeah.
everybody, it is Ted Bogert, and I cannot tell you how long we've been trying to do this and how excited I am to have the one and only Robin Hoffman with me on the show today. Hey,
Hi.
Robin, how's it going?
It's going great. Thank you so much for having me. And yes, I believe this is our fifth attempt.
It's crazy, right? Like
Yeah.
we both kept running into crazy things and
Something. Yeah.
scenarios, and me with health issues, and then my grandson was born. Thank God he
Yes.
was
And
born early.
congratulations.
Thank you. I'm so if he hadn't been born early, we wouldn't have gotten to see him. He was a month early.
Oh,
And
wow.
so
Any sleep
imagine
well?
we would have, it's just so we are live. I know I look a little dark, like somebody's flashing I'm not getting up to change the lights right now. But yeah, we tried, and I knew it was eventually going to be like you even said, when it's the right time, when it's
That's it.
supposed to.
Yeah.
And we have so many supporters out there that support both of us, including John Kalish, who's
Yes. One of
such
my
a
favorite human beings on the
he's
planet.
such a good man, good family. He's just such a great guy. So enough about that. Welcome. So
Thank
my
you.
audience may not know you. I can't believe it because you are, in my mind, famous
Oh,
and an influencer and chat with me and bake with me. Everything that you
yes.
do, I think, is magical. So
Thank
tell
you.
them a little bit about Robin Hoffman.
Ooh, who is Robin Hoffman? Well, I was born. No. So I started with the baking show. I have my degree in psychology and I worked with people with disabilities for 27 years. Yes,
Wow.
27 years.
You were a baby.
And yes, I was a baby when I started. Thank you. And it was just time for me. Most people last about 5 to 10 years in that profession. And I could not step away from it. I loved it for so long. And it just became time for me to move on. But I could never move away from people with disabilities. That's my heart and soul. I have a daughter on the autism spectrum. It's just something I love, eat, breathe, and have lived for so many years. So when I've also been a baker, just on the side, I love to bake. And I was diagnosed with celiac disease about 13 years ago. And that just means I can't have any gluten. I know that's sort of a buzzword right now, but it's very serious for me. It's like poison to my system. So 13 years ago, there was nothing gluten free on the shelf, like nothing. So, and I would love
We
to
didn't even
bake.
know the term gluten free.
You did, what's that?
We didn't even know the term gluten free
Oh,
back
okay.
then.
No, not at all. Not at all, which most people took years to get diagnosed back then. And that was my situation as well. But so I love to bake and I was determined. The only things that were out there, if you could get anything gluten free, tasted like cardboard or like Play Doh. And I did not like those options. So I was just dedicated to really just practicing and trying to make these gluten free treats. And they wound up being delicious after many experimental tries, after wasting a ton of money. And I thought, I don't want people to have to do that. I don't want people to have to waste all that time, all that money trying different things that don't work. I already know what works. How can I tell them? Well, I thought about it one day and I was like, well, I'll do, YouTube's becoming popular and this, let me just do a gluten free baking show. And then I was like, no, I can't do that. I can't not be with people with disabilities. I can't not spread awareness. And all of my years of working with people with disabilities, the person with the disability was not the issue. It was the people around them that didn't understand them. So I was like, let's spread some awareness. So on paper, it sounded crazy. Let's do a baking show where we invite a guest with a disability. And while we're baking, we'll get to know them. Sounded crazy, but you
I
know what?
love it though.
It
So creative.
works. It works. And so many beautiful, magical things have happened that I could never have even dreamed of. It impacts my guest. It impacts every person that's a member on my crew. They get to know these wonderful, amazing individuals. People who are watching get to see just how smart and effective and productive people with disabilities can be. And then they get to see what some of these disabilities look like so they might recognize it out in the real world. So it has just been incredible. After my very first episode, I had a mom. It was actually my daughter who was on it. She has a rare syndrome called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. And a mom messaged me, and I get a little verklempt every time I talk about it. And she said, my daughter and my daughter's 13 years old. She has EDS. We sat on the couch and we watched your show, and she started crying and she looked at me and said, Mom, she's just like me, because she had never met another girl with the same syndrome. I know. I was like, that's it. I could never hear anything from anybody else again. I've done my part. This is why I'm doing it. This is what I want to keep doing. And it's been going great. It's been almost 2 years now. And
Has
I
that
love it.
all? I feel like you have been, and I'll use this terminology, influencer. You've had a phenomenally successful show forever. Like you have all of these amazing guests that come on.
I know. Isn't
Um,
it great? I meet the,
it really is. Like I feel like you're impacting. When I watch you too, you're incredibly. It's hard. People think that this is easy.
oh, goodness.
It's
Yeah.
just it's just not. I've been on the receiving end of somebody else
Yeah.
interviewing, and if it's
Yeah.
not good, it's bad.
It's bad. And what
So
they don't understand, especially try baking while you're doing it. Because
yeah,
now you're talking about a
I'm only
sensitive
drinking.
subject.
I can't imagine trying to focus on baking
You're
while
talking
you're
about a certain, a very sensitive subject with somebody, trying to keep it light, and you're trying to teach a recipe, and you're trying to, oh my goodness, it's like a mess. By the time I'm done, I'm exhausted, and I haven't really even done anything. It's hilarious.
I have to ask because people ask me this, and I would love to hear your answer.
Okay.
How do you continue to find the guests? I usually get, aren't you going to run out of people, Ted? Aren't
Right.
you going to? So, how do you find the guest, or are you at the point where people find you?
That's a great question, particularly with Bake With Me, because we haven't even talked about Chat With Me yet. With Bake With Me, like I said, I was in the field for so many years that I already had developed, I knew so many people. So it started out with me reaching out to people, but yes, I'm at the point where now people contact me.
Not awesome. All right, so let's talk about Chat With Me.
So once I realized I had a little bit of a voice and a little bit of a platform, I was like, okay, well, I love spreading awareness on disabilities. There's more things I want to talk about, and I've always, my entire life, even since I was a little kid, I've always felt that every human being is just special in their own way. And I'm not saying that to be cliche. Like I literally feel that way. Everyone has a story. If you stopped on the street and talked to anyone walking by, they have a story. There's something unique and beautiful about them. So I thought, I don't really want to talk to celebrities, to be honest with you. I want to talk to regular, ordinary people. So my tagline is ordinary people telling extraordinary stories. And that's exactly what they do. You could bring in anyone. So no, I'll never run out of guests because I want to talk to you. I want to talk to them. I want to talk to everybody because everybody has that special story.
I think that people underestimate their story. I feel like people don't haven't, for whatever reason, they haven't ever talked about it, and
Yeah.
so they tuck it away. And then when I see something or I see a post, I follow social media constantly. I'm always looking, and I get the same thing. I get people that reach out to me all the time. But I
Yeah.
do look for stories. I do look for
Okay.
people, and when they share something on social media, I
Mm-hmm.
think, you know what, there's something behind that. And I think that's what people need to understand. You do have a voice, you have a story, you are
Right.
unique.
And you
And
don't
so
realize how
I
much
don't care what it is.
yes, and you don't realize how much it can impact somebody else.
I have people, and I know you do too, that come on and they, after the show, because they're nervous, they come on the show and afterward, they're like, wow, that wasn't so hard. And actually, I feel better. And
Yes.
then they look at all the love that they get from the show and the comments and the
Yes.
follow ups. And I think so many people get validated. There's a validation that comes from being on shows like ours.
Absolutely. I love it. I love it. One of my guests who was on Bake with me, she had never talked about it. She has polio. So it's not very common right now to meet other people who have polio, and
Right.
she came on the show and she talked about it and she educated us about it, and she got in touch with me afterwards and told me just how much it meant to her, and that there was such an outreach and such an outpouring of love from her community, from her coworkers and friends afterwards who just didn't know. And they were just so grateful to learn about her. And she had so much love that she was just beaming. She said it was really one of the best days of her life.
What story, and that's the kind of stuff that keeps, I don't know about you, but I can speak for me, that keeps me going. That's one
Oh,
of the things that just feeds my, people. Why are you doing all these shows, Ted? Why are you doing this? I mean, one little nugget from every show is enough to feed me for a long time.
that's
And
it.
so that's the, it's not really selfish, but that's the thing I get.
I feel like that too, Ted. I'm so glad you said that. I feel like it's selfish sometimes because it seems self-serving, even though it's not. And the number one question I get asked is, how are you making money? Are you making money off these shows?
Oh, yes. Please answer that
I'm
question.
going to answer this question. I'm going to say right now, I'm going to make this very, very clear. I have never and I will never make a penny off of any of my shows. if anything ever gets so lucrative where I get some money from whatever it is, it will go toward whatever disabilities I'm supporting or whatever organizations need it at that time. This is not for me, even though I named it Bake With Me and Chat With Me. It's not about me at all. It's those titles were to invite people in and to have an open door and to be inviting and welcoming, not because it's about me at all. So I have never and will never make money from these shows.
I think that's so important too. Like I have people that want to change. I'm the same way. So I have people now. I've had people that want to sponsor, and we've experimented with that. It's not a comfort zone for me. I don't like it. But I have people. Okay, I want you to promote this particular thing that we have going on. First of all, in order to find something I feel comfortable enough promoting on the show that doesn't downgrade it or denigrate it, is just crazy. So we created all of these cool sponsorship packages, never used a one. I mean, it's just, I don't know how to do it. I wish I had somebody that could step into that role, but that's not a me, which I know that's not a you either. I never charge, you don't charge guests. There's no, people are like, why are you doing this? There's no money in it. Same for you. I'm glad that was one of my questions. So I figured.
See, this is what happens when interviewers interview.
No, it's good though, because it came up the way it should. What's your favorite show? Do you have I know you can't talk babies. It's like Sophie's Choice, but do you have a favorite?
Oh no, I could totally tell you which one of my children's are my favorite. No, I'm just kidding.
Nice. My kids will say the same thing. We all have our favorites.
I have something special that I like about each. My heart will always be in Bake With Me because of the disability piece. But it's very challenging to film that. We filmed that at Full Sail University, and it's amazing, and they're incredible, and it gives the students hands-on experience, and it's wonderful, but we're limited in how often we can film. So the reason I love Chat With Me is because I have a studio here in my home, and I can film anytime. I don't need to book anything with anybody except the guests, and just, I could literally, if somebody's like, I can't get to you till, Tuesday night at midnight, I'd be like, okay, let's go, So I love that flexibility. So.
Have you ever had a guest that was painful? And I mean that in a way where not the painful where you're feeling for them, but the trying to pull answers out. It was very short. Did you ever have any challenging guests, I guess?
I guess there are some that are a little more challenging, but for me, like, I'm a total goofball, and I used to give lectures at universities and stuff, and I would always start with, you're going to be just as surprised at what comes out of my mouth as I am. So as long as you're laughing, I don't care if you're laughing with me or at me, I'm really okay with that. And I truly mean that. So I'm a big goofball. So I'll just do something silly to just kind of make it go. I guess there are guests that are more challenging than others, but I've never had such a challenging guest to like, come on, say something.
It's interesting because and I'm sure you have supporters and viewers that will say, hey, Robin, I noticed this. When I'm having a challenging guest, when it is, I ask you, hi, Robin, how are you? And you say, fine. And you're in trouble, that kind of guest. I apparently have a tell. I have
you can tell us what it is.
That you can tell that I know immediately this is going to be a struggle of an interview, and people call me out on it, which is really, it's good for the heart, because I'm like, wow, you pay that much attention. So I bet you'd be surprised. Your viewers probably, I know they love you and they pay attention to everything you're doing. You can't see it right now, but the actual show is blowing up with comments and love for you. So we'll all, just so you guys who are watching, the way live and Zoom work, I can only glance at it, but it doesn't come up on the screen like it does normal Facebook Live. And so I can't see everything, but I promise you, Robin and I will reach back out to you. So what's the future plan for Bake With Me and Chat With Me? Do you want to take it to the television level? Do you want to go to a local or regional TV show to try to expand your audience and your reach?
I love that question, and I get asked that question all the time. And my answer might change week to week, but no, I would love to package Bake With Me and try to see if we could get that on some sort of network, because I think it's so important. Chat With Me, I'm not sure I want to lose my control over, if that makes any sense. I love how intimate it is. I love how I can choose whoever I want to tell whatever story I want. There are some where we have to put some parental, disclaimers on there. And there are most that we, are just beautiful stories. And And I don't ever want to lose that sort of homey, this just guy just came up from up the road. It literally, that happened recently. It was so fun. Because I have such a close relationship with autism, I saw a truck that was just covered in like autism puzzle pieces. And I was like, I have to find out who this is. And so I looked him up and I found him and I reached out to him and he came on the show, and he literally lives like across the street from me. And I know, it's amazing. And he has a son with autism and he's been fishing his whole life. So he created this autism anglers thing where he teaches people with autism how to fish. And it's just like the most, I'm like, what? We don't even know what's in our backyard,
That's correct. All right. So before we dive into COVID and all the changes and things and what you're doing, you're an actress.
I mean, what?
Listen, I've seen some of your posts. So talk a little bit about that, because I think it's cool for people to get to know any side of you. And if you haven't followed Robin, if you're not part of the fan club of Bake With Me and Chat With Me, you might not know that. So talk about that. Is that something you've always done, or is that a newer thing?
It's something I did when I was younger and stepped away from it for a long time, like I said, because I worked in disabilities for so long. And then getting in front of the camera again, it was interesting to be me rather than having to play somebody else. So I love that, because ain't nobody, I don't need to know a character. It's just me. I get to be me. But some opportunities came up. Once you start doing this, as you know, you meet a lot of creative people, and there's a lot of filmmakers in Orlando, and there's a group called OIF, which is the Orlando Independent Filmmakers. And I helped some people out on their films just behind the scenes, because I love to be supportive. And there's this one audition that came across my path for an elderly Jewish woman, which, let me tell you, darling, I love to do. So when I saw that, I was like, I have to do this. So they were looking for you to prove that you could do like the New York Jewish accent. I went in my studio, it was 10 o'clock at night. I had no makeup on, and I just did this 1 minute bit about my bubby, and I talked about it. And I just sent it thinking there's no way I would ever hear from them, right? The next morning, I hop on a bus with my son to go on a field trip, and I get this email saying, we have to have you in our film. I was like, wait, what? So I played a 75-year-old Jewish woman in this film, and it is hilarious. It's called Table Talk. But so that sort of just sparked that up again. And then once you're on one set, you get to meet other people, and then other people want you on their set. So I've done a couple of others. But
it's fun for you, right? It's an outlet.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
You can tell. I mean, I think for a lot, it's a creative. You're obviously a creative to begin with, but it's just another facet of creativity. Yeah. All right, so let's talk about what's going on, because we talked a little bit before we went live. It's been a challenge for everybody, and everybody's dealing with it in a different way. And so I love to ask every guest that comes on, how are you handling it as far as your creative side, as far as your dealing with it side, as far as your processing side? What are you doing to maintain and continue the momentum and stay positive?
Okay, so besides cooking and baking and eating all day, right?
Besides those.
Because those are being done, trust me. I think that there's a huge missing piece when we talk about what's going on. So if I'm going to touch on that, I feel like everyone talks about how we're coping, but what we're missing is that we're grieving. And everyone grieves in a different way and at a different pace. We are grieving for the loss of our jobs. We're grieving because we can't have person-to-person contact. We're grieving because income has changed. We're grieving because there's sickness out in the world, all of these things. And because I want to tell you my favorite quote that I just saw the other day that actually pertains to this. It said, we are all in the same boat, but we're in completely different storms. I think that is so important, because
powerful.
Everything that was happening in our lives prior to this virus coming doesn't go away to make room for us to grieve this, right? It's still all there. We still have kids with disabilities. We have disabilities of our own. We have relationship problems. We have financial issues. All of these things that we were dealing with prior are still there. Now we have to learn a new lifestyle. We have to learn to educate in a different way. We have to learn, right? So we have all of these things going on. And now we're supposed to grieve for these things that we're still involved in. Grief usually comes when something finishes, but we haven't even had time to finish because we're still in the middle of it, and there's all this unexpected. So I think we need to talk about grief, and I think people need to figure out how they grieve and what's right for them. So what's right for me is to allow myself to feel that. So I'm not going to be positive all the time. I am a very positive person and I will get there, but I do allow myself those moments of just let me cry for a minute, or let me be angry about this, or let me be frustrated that I can't film this thing that I planned and built an entire crew for and did, whatever for. But then it's got to stop. You can do that for a few moments or for whatever time you need for your grieving process. And then you got to pick yourself up and look, but wait, I'm in my home in the air conditioning with Wi-Fi. I'm cooking and baking up a storm. I get to eat these great meals, right? So it's not terrifying every moment of every day. So I think it's very, very important to focus on the things that you do have and then sort of let go of the things you can't control. As long as you're doing your best, you're following the guidelines, you're washing your hands, all the things we've heard a million times, you're taking the precautions that you can, you're doing your part. The rest is up to you, right? You have to figure out the types of things that bring you joy. Music, I love music. So if I'm going to be cleaning, I got to put some music on and dance around while I'm Windexing things. So that's my joy. You have to find your joy and try not to get into the depths of just COVID and coronavirus all day, every day, and reach out to people because everyone's looking for that. So if you are feeling that depth or that heaviness, make sure you book a time to meet with your friends or get on some sort of call and make yourself and help yourself feel better.
I mean, everything you said is exactly what I know people need to hear. And we talk about it on the show a lot because I think people feel this guilt when they grieve right now.
Right.
And I think people feel a guilt when they're not out there being all sorts of positive when
and you see it. It's all over Facebook. What are you doing to be productive? Screw that. Give yourself a minute. Take a minute.
But I love what you said.
Tiger King. Do whatever you want.
I love what you said, Robin, though. What I think people have a hard time with is figuring out when to put the brakes on on that moment. Right. So have your moment, and your moment could be an hour. It could be, I don't know, whatever it is.
Right.
But there has to be an end time to it for that particular moment. I think people are drowned, so they don't know that if they're afraid if they turn it on, they won't be able to turn it off.
Right.
And so it's a myth.
I get that fear. And you don't have to shut it off completely. Let it trickle if you need to, but you can't let it consume you.
I have people that watch the news, and I tell them, look, if that is what you're doing all day long, I really want you to limit yourself because that would get anybody sad and confused and not happy. You have to find ways, like you said, you love music. You have to figure out what that positive is.
Right.
But nobody's talked about this, so I love it. You have to be able to allow that grief. We haven't talked about grief on the show. That feeling, that sadness, whatever it is, however you describe it, whatever emotion you're going through, you have to allow yourself, you have to give yourself permission to feel it. And I think a lot of people then go, well, I'm not as strong as the other 1,000 people I see put it on social media, how strong and positive they are. And that is, like we joke all the time, even though I love social media,
right?
It's definitely can be not real. Imagine that.
Exactly. Yeah. That mom that's homeschooling and cooking every meal and the house is all clean and she's got her hair and makeup. It ain't real. That is not happening because let me tell you what it took to get me to look good for this today.
Oh yeah, like I have shorts on underneath this. I mean,
I love it.
You have to figure out your way, and then you have to not feel guilty about it because it's not the same way as you do it or I do it. You have to figure out what works for you and stop comparing yourself, which we live in a comparative kind of society as it is because of social media. A lot of it has to do with that. And so I try to encourage people to remain as positive as you can, but I love what you said. You've got to grieve. You've got to figure out how to allow yourself to have those feelings. I mean, I've been frustrated about shows. Technology is my number one frustration right now because I want to do these shows in a way that is productive. One of the things that's a pet peeve, I can't stand the black frame around the two of us. There's a way to make it colorful, and I haven't figured out how to do it, and it's driving me insane. So these little things, but I can't focus on that. But I allow myself a moment to play with it, get aggravated, and move on to the next.
And then move on because you have a beautiful show and you have beautiful guests and they're doing wonderful things. So
it's all about the guests and it's all about that story and for people to be able to relate to it and feel like they're not alone in the universe,
Right.
which is what Chat with Me and Bake with Me is. Just like you said with your guest who has the similar, did you say syndrome or condition that your daughter has?
Mm-hmm.
Just being able to relate and go, wow, I'm not alone
Yeah.
in what I'm feeling or what I'm going through or what I have. It's so powerful.
Yep. And none of us are alone right now. None of us.
None
And
of
I
us
say
are
this
alone.
full heartedly. If anybody is feeling that they are, then reach out. Reach out to me personally. I will answer you. I said this recently, and I had probably about 5 to 7 people personally message me, and I was like, right there, let's do this, because nobody should be alone right now. There's isolation, but it doesn't have to be loneliness.
I agree. There's a lot of people who reach out to me on a daily basis, and I have to give them a shout out. I don't think I've given any reason for them to, but you really don't need a reason. So reach out to the people that you think you should reach out to. That don't be afraid to reach out. I had somebody say I just lost somebody to, unfortunately, to suicide a couple of nights ago, and they're reaching out to people because they want to make sure the people that look strong are okay.
Hey, oh, how
That's
beautiful.
not awesome. So, any parting words of wisdom for them? First of all, I have to say you are a joy. I
Oh,
love your energy, and I love what you're doing. It really is unique. You have a unique voice. You have a wonderful platform, and you give people such an opportunity to share. And then you share part of yourself, a lot of yourself, every single time you go on the camera. So, kudos to you for that.
I love that, and I love you, and I feel like I can just reflect everything you just said
Thank
to
you.
me back to you. I think you're incredible, and I love what
Thank
you
you.
do.
Love you back. So check out Robin Hoffman, Chat with Me, Bake with Me. Go look at her YouTube channel. We've tagged everything. You can find it on our Facebook page. She is obviously accessible and just a wonderful human being. What a blessing to have you on the show. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. And we did it.
We did it, Dad. It
We
happened.
did it. I'm so excited. All right. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. You as well.
We'll see you
Mwah.
guys soon. Thank
Bye,
you so
everybody.
much,
Take
Robin.
care.
Bye bye.